Mark.
I'm Bill Good, and it's time now for our debate between Gregor Robertson and Suzanne Anton. Mr. Robertson has been mayor for 3 years. Ms. Anton would like to be. Each will make an opening statement in an order determined by a coin flip a few minutes ago. Then I will put a series of questions to the candidates. I will try to be fair and make it clear my job is to moderate, not participate in the debate. I'll do my best on that. I would ask the two not to talk over each other. I will give both a fair opportunity to be heard, and I should tell you, you can also follow this online at CKNW.com. To opening remarks, and Suzanne Anton goes first.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us here, and thanks to the listening and the viewing audience. It's clear, Bill, to me that in this election there are three singular issues. One is leadership, and I will tell you that my style of leadership is to be accountable. I will be the mayor for whom the buck stops here. Secondly, my style of leadership is collaborative, and I believe in collaboration with the region, with the province, with the federal government, in the same way that the NPA, putting partnerships together with those other governments in the same way that the NPA did in the last council when we got so much social housing underway. Secondly, the issue is about taxes in this election. We've visited so many homes of people, doorsteps, roomfuls of people, and for them taxes is always an issue. Taxpayers first is the mantra for the NPA. Taxpayers are not an ATM for City Hall. And thirdly, Bill, this election is about dreaming big. NPA has always dreamed big in Vancouver. We dream big and we plan big. We can build excellent sports facilities, excellent cultural facilities. We can bring housing supply. We can get good transportation. We know how to put partnerships together and to get things done. We have a great platform. Have a look at npavancouver.ca. Thank you very much, Bill. Looking forward to the debate.
Mr. Robertson.
Thanks, Bill. Well, this election truly is about leadership, and voters have a very clear choice. I am very proud of the record of my team at City Council, Park and School Board for the last 3 years. We've made extraordinary progress on homelessness with over 670 people moved off the street into shelters and housing, an 82% drop in street homelessness. We've had real success on affordable housing, and we have a plan in place over the next 10 years to build 38,000 more units of affordable housing. We have reduced crime at double the national rate, extraordinary, more safer streets from that combination of reducing homelessness and focusing on our police department. Our streets are more vibrant. We've got new festivals, markets, street food carts. We have had the lowest property tax increase in the region last year, and 2 years now under 2%. So we are delivering. We leverage the Olympic opportunity to bring jobs and investment to Vancouver, and I think we have a positive approach to politics and governing in Vancouver, in stark contrast to the NPA's negativity. We want to govern for another 3 years, follow through on the promises that we make as we've done for these last 3 years.
Occupy Vancouver. Mr. Robertson, looking back, how much warning did you have that the protesters would be pitching tents, and could you have stopped it?
Well, it's a good question, and it was a very difficult circumstance on that first day. Obviously, the Occupy movement is global, 1,700 cities now with these encampments and protests taking place. That initial protest on October the 15th came weeks after Occupy Wall Street started, and tents were erected in the midst of up to 5,000 people being in the Art Gallery Square there, which made it very difficult, obviously, for police or city engineering staff to intervene and try and stop the tents from being erected.
Did they try?
They did not try. Their best judgment was that would have caused real problems, potentially violence. And our bottom line all the way through this is to prevent violence, to prevent chaos, to be measured and patient with this, but firm. And unfortunately, the intervention approach has not worked in any other cities. We're hopeful that by being firm and moving things along now, that we are able to resolve this and move the tent camp off. The protest is going to carry on. It is in every other city, but the tent camp is not okay. It's no longer safe.
Ms. Anton, you've been critical of the mayor and said you'd end the occupation, but not said how. How would you put this to rest?
Bill, first of all, the tents should not have been allowed to stay up. Secondly, they should not have been allowed to stay up for so long. It's gone on for 3 weeks now. Gregor, of course, at first said, well, you can stay as long as you like. That was a very bad signal to send out from City Hall. The tents needed to come down immediately. They needed to come down 2 weeks ago. They need to come down last week. The steps staff are taking today, I gather, to give people notices, that could have been done 2 weeks ago. You know, the situation has deteriorated. We had rats. We've got high cost to businesses, high costs to the taxpayers. Then we had an overdose. Now we've had a terrible tragedy there, Bill. And I would just like to really say how terrible I feel, and I think the whole city feels, for the family of this young girl and for the Occupy community, because it is a terrible thing to have happened.
Mr.
Now,
Robertson, you did say the occupiers could stay indefinitely. Why
No,
did you say that?
That's not correct. What I said
say
was,
that.
no, you can check the record on that. The protest could be indefinite. People have a right to protest in Canada. That is our right. The encampment has never been acceptable, and it's against city bylaws, and we've been clear about all along. And, you know, the death is a horrible tragedy, and what is really unfortunate is Suzanne playing politics with this, and I think it's upset people on the site. It's upsetting to all of us when this becomes a political football. We have an extraordinarily difficult situation that cities all over the world are grappling with right now. There is no easy answer. We want to resolve this peacefully, but turning it into a political issue and effectively manipulating it as such, I think, has made it a lot more difficult.
It is political. Gary Mason said, in fact, in the Globe this morning that it's a referendum on your leadership.
Well, people have that opinion. You know, I think the important thing is we want to resolve this peacefully. And adding the politicizing this issue and saying that it's all being directed politically is undermining city staff who have worked very hard, who are experts. Our police chief, our fire chief have been working diligently. Our city staff on the ground, on the site, trying to build relationships, trying to resolve this situation. And when it turns into attacks politically that undermine the staff's work on the ground, it's most unfortunate. It just makes it that much more difficult to find a solution.
Ms. Anton, would you authorize force if necessary?
we have professional staff teams, Bill. They have done this before. You send in your whole team of housing, engineering, health, police, and fire, and they can manage it. Staff have done this before. They're clearly intending to do it again over the next few days.
Would you authorize force? Do you think it's going to come to that?
I would authorize the staff team to go in. I don't think force is necessary. This issue of the other cities, this is Vancouver. This is not other cities. It's the city of Vancouver. This is a peaceful protest. They are peaceful people. And by the way, the protest is fine. It is the tents that need to go. Clearly, they're a health and safety risk. They need to go.
Two other issues, homelessness. Mr. Robertson, you made it a top priority. What progress have you made?
Well, from 2010 to 2011, we've seen the first drop in homelessness in over a decade. The overall number of people homeless on the streets, it's a dramatically different situation. From 2008 to 2011, 670 people fewer on the homeless count that was done in last spring. So we've seen a huge drop in the number of people stuck outside, largely due to opening emergency shelters with the province and getting people into housing. And we have a robust supportive housing partnership with the province. That was not funded when I came in 3 years ago. There was a piece of paper that said we'd like to do this together, but we landed the funding. We have the commitments. We've been building those sites, 14 of them that are being built, 1,500 units of permanent supportive housing, and the shelters that are filling a gap in the meantime. So we've seen a dramatic shift. People, I think, were voting in the last election largely based on the homelessness crisis that City Hall had completely ignored, and it had to be turned around, and we have done that.
Ms. Anton, you have quite a different view.
The NPA has such a great record on homelessness, and let me go into that in a moment. But let me say, first of all, Bill, homelessness is up over the last 3 years. And what Gregor and his team have done has changed the city's priorities from housing to shelter. A shelter is not a home. A shelter is a mattress on a floor where people take your belongings. For the NPA, it has always been about housing. You know, Gregor was the luckiest mayor alive to campaign on homelessness and come in following the work that we had done in our NPA council. We arranged 40 buildings. Rich Coleman brought 26 hotels, and we arranged for 14 brand new buildings. That was the speeding freight train that Gregor and his team were able to jump upon to get to start making a dent in homelessness. It's the work that we did in our previous council. I'm very proud of that work. And by the way, the other part of what's going on in the city recently is that the burden of homelessness, of solving homelessness, is being transferred to the taxpayers of Vancouver. People in Vancouver now believe it's for Vancouver to solve. It is a regional problem, it's a provincial problem, it's a national problem. You need collaborative relationships. That's what we did in the last council. That's why we got those 40 buildings.
I don't think any party has been able to bring the federal government to the table on
yes,
this.
We have, actually. We've had a partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada and a program called Chez Soi, which we opened the Bosman Hotel, which has 100 residents, people with mental illnesses, who it's a research project that we are hoping and working very hard to make more permanent. But it has people off the street basically being treated for their mental illness in homes. and comparing that to those who are not housed. And this was a program we pushed for. Councillor Carrie Jang is being a member of the Federal Mental Health Commission. We pushed hard to make sure we had that investment. I think we've had a great working relationship with the federal government, from the Olympics to our economic development work to this homelessness program, working at mental health. So likewise with the province. And these partnerships did not yield anything until 3 years ago. Suzanne can talk about great partnerships, but nothing was changing. Homelessness was getting worse, mental health on our streets. We have delivered reality on these partnerships. We've seen buildings open, we've seen people off the street and taken care of, and that was not happening 3 years ago.
Let me just correct that revisionist history, Bill. It was Mayor Sam Sullivan who went and met with Senator Kirby 3 times to get that program underway and to ensure that that $20 million that came to Canada, came to Vancouver rather, that Mental Health Commission money again was organized in our NPA Council in the same way those 40 buildings were organized. It is that leadership, it was that work that led the groundwork for having this money come to Vancouver and the program that Gregor is boasting about. That was work that was done in the previous council. That is why
why did you throw your mayor out?
I have to continue to say we had an outstanding record on homelessness, and Gregor was very lucky to be able to jump on that speeding freight train when he was elected.
On transit, Mr. Robertson, you voted in favor of the 2-cent transit tax.
I did, and with the majority of mayors across the region, we felt very strongly that it's a critical investment for the region. We need it for economic competitiveness, for livability. It's a short-term solution to funding the growth of transit, the Evergreen Line in particular, and improved bus service. And we need that. We need a longer-term solution with governance and with the funding mechanisms at TransLink that make sense. So we're pushing to work that deal with the province over these coming months. And I was very clear on this. I don't really know where Suzanne was on this. She was never clear with her position, and similar to many other positions she took, it seemed to move around and flip-flop. So I'm very strong on this. We have to have the investment in transit, and we have to have some new tools like a carbon tax in particular to fund the growth of transit. It's a high demand